Emily Allen stared out of the big glass window in her room, watching the sun rise over the city. The morning light spilled across the luxurious walls, making everything shine, but Emily didn't feel the warmth of happiness. She was 10 years old, but her world felt small and quiet. She could only move her arms, because her legs had been paralyzed in a car accident a year ago. Since then, life had changed completely for her. She had to use a wheelchair every day, and many things that once seemed normal now felt impossible. Today was Emily's birthday. A small card on her nightstand reminded her that she was turning 10. She had hoped that friends from school, neighbors, or even distant family members would come to celebrate. But as the morning passed, the house remained empty, silent except for the soft hum of the air conditioner. Emily's heart sank. She had always imagined birthday parties filled with laughter, balloons, and the smell of cake. But this year, her imagination seemed to be the only companion she had. The house itself was enormous. It was in one of the richest neighborhoods in the city. Marble floors sparkled, chandeliers hung from the ceilings, and the furniture was expensive and shiny. But all of this could not fill the silence that surrounded Emily. She looked at the giant clock on the wall. Her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Allen, were busy with their own lives. Her father was the CEO of a very successful company. People admired him for his wealth and power, but he was often away, attending meetings, making deals, or traveling for business. He had money, prestige, and respect, but he had little time for Emily. Her mother, once a cheerful and loving woman, had changed after the accident. She spent most of her time online, posting pictures, scrolling through social media, and talking about things Emily could barely understand. She was never really around to hold Emily's hand, to smile at her, or to comfort her when she cried at night. Emily missed her mother's hugs, but the hugs rarely came anymore. As the morning passed, Emily's sadness grew. She tried to stay busy by playing with her toys, but they didn't make her laugh like they used to. She wheeled herself to the small table near the window and looked outside. Birds flew across the sky, and children played in the streets, but no one came to visit her. She whispered to herself, "I wish someone would come, someone who cares." Her small voice echoed softly in the empty room. The house was filled with expensive things, but it was missing one very important thing: love. Emily had everything she could ever want in terms of material things: fancy dolls, clothes that cost hundreds of dollars, and even a small tablet with games. But none of these things could replace a friend, a hug, or a smile shared with someone who truly cared. Downstairs, the staff were preparing the house for what they called a birthday setup. They hung a few balloons, placed a small cake on the table, and arranged chairs in the dining area. They did their job politely, but their smiles were distant. They had done this many times before for other families. To them, Emily was just another child living in a wealthy house. They did not feel the loneliness she felt, nor did they understand how much she wanted someone to knock on the door and say, "Happy birthday, Emily." Emily's father, Mr. Allen, was in his office, surrounded by papers and a phone that never stopped ringing. He glanced at the calendar on his desk and saw that it was his daughter's birthday. He thought about the presents he had ordered online, the expensive watch he had bought, and the gift card for her favorite store. But he did not think about sitting with her, talking with her, or simply being present. For him, the gift seemed enough. By late morning, Emily's hope began to fade. She watched the clock, then looked at the empty street outside. No cars stopped. No footsteps approached. Her small cake on the table looked lonely, just like her. She wheeled herself back to the window and rested her chin on her hands. Her eyes filled with tears, but she tried to blink them away. She did not want her parents to see her cry, not that they would have noticed even if they had. Emily remembered the times before her accident. She remembered running in the park, riding her bike, and laughing with friends. She remembered birthdays full of fun and excitement. But now, even in a house full of expensive toys and furniture, she felt smaller than ever. She wanted a friend, someone to talk to, someone who would care about her not because of money, but because of who she was. The staff brought the cake to her room. It was small, simple, and had one candle on it. Emily wheeled herself to the table and looked at it. She sighed, knowing she would have to blow out the candle alone. Her fingers traced the frosting, and for a moment, she imagined someone standing beside her, smiling, and wishing her a happy birthday. "I wish someone would come," she whispered again. Her voice was soft but filled with longing. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and blew out the single candle. The smoke curled up into the air, disappearing as quickly as it came. The wish left her lips, but no one answered. After blowing out the candle, Emily felt a deep sadness in her chest. She picked up the small fork and cut a piece of cake. She ate slowly, savoring the taste, but it did not bring the happiness she had hoped for. She looked around the empty room, at the walls decorated with pictures of her smiling from past birthdays. The contrast between the memories and the present made her heart ache. Hours passed. Emily's hope had all but vanished. The sun moved across the sky, and the shadows in her room grew longer. She began to feel tired, but she could not sleep. She kept looking at the window, watching the world outside, waiting for a sound, a knock, anything to tell her she was not completely alone. Her parents came briefly into her room. Her mother glanced at the cake, smiled politely, and returned to her phone. Her father nodded, said, "Happy birthday, Emily," and went back to his office. No hugs, no long conversation, no laughter. Just a few words, and then silence returned. Emily's eyes filled with tears again, but this time, they rolled quietly down her cheeks. By evening, Emily felt completely alone. She wheeled herself to her favorite chair by the window and rested her head on her arms. She thought about how unfair life seemed. Why was she stuck in a wheelchair? Why did her parents seem so distant? Why did no one come to celebrate her birthday? She wished she could be like other children, with friends knocking at her door, with laughter filling the air. Just as she was about to give up hope, a small sound reached her ears. A soft knock at the door. Emily lifted her head, surprised. Her heart beat faster. Could it be? She had almost stopped believing that anyone would come. She wheeled herself slowly toward the door, wondering who it could be. Her eyes widened as she opened the door and saw a boy standing there. He was not wearing fancy clothes, and he looked different from anyone she had ever met. His hands held a small gift, and his face had a gentle, nervous smile. Emily did not know him, but in that moment, she felt a spark of hope she had not felt all day. The boy spoke softly, "Hi. I'm Marcus. Happy birthday, Emily." Emily blinked, trying to understand. Someone had come, just for her. She could hardly believe it. Her lips trembled, and her heart filled with something she had almost forgotten: joy. The door opened wider, and for the first time that day, Emily felt seen. She was no longer completely alone. The house was still big and quiet, but the presence of one small boy changed everything. For Emily, this was the beginning of something she could not have imagined. A day that had started with sadness and loneliness was about to turn into a story of friendship, hope, and love, something that money could never buy. And as she looked at Marcus, holding a small gift, Emily felt her heart whisper, "Maybe, just maybe, today will be special after all." Marcus tightened the strap of his worn backpack as he stepped out of his small apartment. The sun was shining brightly, but the warmth of the day could not hide the struggles he faced every day. He lived with his mother in a tiny apartment on the other side of the city. The walls were thin, and the floors creaked with every step. Money was always tight. Some days, Marcus didn't have enough to eat, and other days, he had to work small jobs to help his mother pay the bills. But despite the challenges, Marcus had a heart full of kindness and a mind full of dreams. He had heard about Emily from a social worker at the community center. She had told him about a girl, rich and lonely, living in a big house, paralyzed in a wheelchair, whose birthday no one seemed to care about. The story stuck in Marcus's mind. He thought about how lonely she must feel, and he could not stop thinking about her. He wanted to do something to make her day better, even if it was just a little. Marcus had never met Emily before. He didn't know what she liked, what toys she played with, or even if she would like him. But he knew that the thought of someone being alone on their birthday was unfair. He decided he would visit her, and he wanted to bring a gift, a small gift, something simple, but something that would show her she mattered. He searched his room for something to give. His options were limited. He had a small notebook he had decorated with drawings, and a tiny wooden toy he had made from scraps of wood. He spent weeks saving coins to buy a ribbon to wrap the toy. Marcus was not rich, but he had something even more important, a willingness to give from his heart. After carefully wrapping the gift, Marcus wrote a card. He wrote simple words, but every word carried his hope and care. Happy birthday, Emily. I hope your day is special. You are brave and strong. From, Marcus. He folded the card carefully and placed it with the toy in his backpack. He hesitated for a moment, thinking about the long walk ahead. Emily lived in one of the wealthiest parts of the city. Their streets were clean and quiet, lined with big houses and luxury cars. Marcus felt nervous. He had never been to a place like that before. He was just a poor boy, walking into a world that felt so different from his own. But he reminded himself why he was doing this. It was not about the houses or the cars. It was about making a girl's birthday special. It was about showing her that someone cared. With that thought in mind, he took a deep breath and started walking. As he walked, he passed small shops, crowded streets, and people going about their daily lives. Some smiled at him, some ignored him, but Marcus paid no attention. His mind was on Emily and her birthday. He imagined her eyes lighting up when she saw the gift. He imagined her smile, wide and genuine, filling the empty space in her big house. That thought kept him moving forward. When he finally reached the wealthy neighborhood, he paused at the entrance. The streets were quiet, lined with tall trees and massive houses. He saw cars that he could never even dream of owning. For a moment, he felt out of place. People in fancy clothes walked past, looking at him curiously. He felt his chest tighten, but he reminded himself of his mission. Emily's happiness mattered more than any fear or hesitation. Marcus approached the largest house on the street. He recognized it from the photos the social worker had shown him. He stood in front of the grand door, his hand on the handle of the backpack, feeling nervous and excited at the same time. What if no one answered? What if Emily didn't like him? What if he was turned away? Despite the doubts, he knocked on the door. The sound echoed in the quiet house. Marcus's heart beat faster. He took a step back, adjusting the backpack on his shoulders. He heard footsteps approaching. The door opened slightly, and a man appeared. Marcus looked up and saw a tall, serious man in a business suit. This was Mr. Allen, Emily's father. "Who are you?" the man asked, his voice sharp and suspicious. Marcus swallowed hard. He could see that the man was used to control, to authority, and that he did not welcome unexpected visitors. But Marcus stood tall. He wanted to be polite and respectful. "My name is Marcus," he said softly. I I came to give your daughter a birthday gift. I I just want to make her happy." The man frowned, looking Marcus up and down. "You're not from around here. What do you want? Why are you here?" Marcus took a deep breath. He knew he had to be brave. I heard about your daughter. I know she is alone today. I wanted to give her this gift and wish her a happy birthday. That's all. The man studied Marcus for a long moment. He could see that the boy was sincere, not lying or asking for anything in return. After a tense pause, he stepped aside and said, "Fine. But don't take too long." Marcus nodded and wheeled his backpack carefully into the house. He followed the man down the hallway, his heart pounding with anticipation. He had never been in such a big house before. The floors shone, the walls were decorated with expensive paintings, and the air smelled of perfume and cleaning products. Everything was perfect and beautiful, but Marcus hardly noticed. His attention was on one person, Emily. When they reached Emily's room, she was by the window, looking sad and lonely. Her small hands rested on the arm of her wheelchair. Marcus's heart ached as he saw her eyes, filled with a mix of hope and sadness. She turned as he entered, and for a moment, they both just looked at each other. "Hi," Marcus said gently, holding out the gift. "Happy birthday, Emily." Emily's eyes widened. She could hardly believe it. Someone had come for her, someone who cared. She wheeled herself closer, her hands trembling slightly. You came?" she asked softly. Marcus nodded. "I did. I wanted to make your day special." She smiled, a small, tentative smile at first, but it grew brighter as she took the gift from his hands. Her eyes sparkled with happiness. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much." Marcus felt a warm feeling in his chest. This was why he had come. This was why he had walked all this way, through streets full of people who might have ignored him. He had made a difference, even if it was small. Emily carefully opened the gift. Inside, she found the handmade toy and the card. Her eyes filled with tears of joy. The toy was simple, but it was perfect. The card's words were heartfelt, written with care. She read them aloud softly, "Happy birthday, Emily. I hope your day is special. You are brave and strong. From Marcus." Emily looked up at Marcus. You wrote this for me?" Marcus nodded, smiling. "Yes. I wanted you to know that someone cares about you. Even if it's just me." Emily felt a warmth in her heart that she had not felt for a long time. For the first time that day, she truly felt seen and loved. The room, filled with expensive furniture and decorations, suddenly felt brighter. The loneliness that had weighed on her all day began to lift, replaced by a sense of joy and hope. Mr. Allen watched silently from the doorway. He had never seen his daughter's face light up like this before. He realized that no amount of money or gifts could replace the simple, genuine act of kindness from a child. The boy had given Emily something priceless: attention, care, and friendship. Emily held the toy tightly and looked at Marcus. You are my friend," she said softly. Marcus nodded. "Yes. I can be your friend." They spent the rest of the afternoon together. Marcus told her stories about his life, about school, and about the small adventures he had. Emily laughed, something she hadn't done all day. She showed him her toys, and they played together, sharing moments that were more precious than any expensive gift or party. Outside, the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Emily looked out the window again, but this time she was not alone. Marcus sat beside her, talking and laughing. The house was still large and silent, but the presence of one kind-hearted boy had changed everything. Emily's father, Mr. Allen, stood in the background, silently observing. He realized that Marcus had given Emily something far more valuable than money or gifts. He had given her attention, love, and genuine care. It was a lesson that Mr. Allen would not forget. As the evening approached, Emily felt happy in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. She looked at Marcus and whispered, "Thank you for coming. You made my birthday special." Marcus smiled. I'm glad. That's why I came. And at that moment, Emily knew that even though her parents had been busy, and even though the world sometimes felt lonely, there were people like Marcus who could make a difference. People who cared not because of wealth, but because of the heart. The next morning, Marcus woke up early, feeling both nervous and excited. He knew he wanted to see Emily again, but he also wondered if he should. He wasn't sure if her father would let him come back, or if Emily would even remember him. But the thought of her smiling, of her eyes lighting up the day before, made him determined to try. He packed a small bag with some things he thought she might like. He had a notebook with drawings, a small ball he had made from cloth scraps, and some crayons he had managed to buy with his saved coins. Marcus wanted to show Emily that he cared not just for her birthday but for every day, that he could be a friend whenever she needed one. When he arrived at the big house, he hesitated at the gate. He looked at the shiny cars, the tall trees, and the wide driveway. Everything seemed so different from the streets he was used to. Marcus felt small for a moment, unsure if he belonged here. But then he remembered Emily's smile, her laughter, and how happy she had been yesterday. That thought pushed him forward. He knocked on the door. This time, he could see Emily's father through the window before he opened it. Mr. Allen's expression was serious, but not unkind. "It's you again," he said. Marcus nodded politely. "Yes, sir. I wanted to see Emily. I brought some things to play with her." The man studied Marcus for a moment. He could see the boy was sincere. Finally, he said, "All right. Go ahead. But don't cause any trouble." Marcus smiled and thanked him. He walked through the grand hallway, his heart pounding with excitement. When he reached Emily's room, she was by the window again, looking out at the morning sunlight. When she saw Marcus, her face lit up with joy. "Marcus! You came," she exclaimed, her voice filled with happiness. She wheeled herself closer to him, almost bumping into the wall in her excitement. "I did," Marcus said, smiling. "I thought we could spend the morning together." Emily clapped her hands and laughed, a sound that was bright and musical. It filled the room, chasing away the silence that often hung there. Marcus took out the ball he had made and showed it to her. "I made this," he said. "We can play together with it." Emily's eyes sparkled. She had never seen anything like it before. It was simple, small, and handmade, but it was perfect for her. She reached out and touched the ball carefully. "You made this for me?" she asked, her voice soft but filled with wonder. "Yes," Marcus said. "I wanted you to have something fun. We can play together." They spent the morning laughing, playing, and talking. Marcus showed Emily how to roll the ball gently across the floor, and she tried to catch it with her hands. Sometimes it fell, and they both laughed when it bounced away. Emily told Marcus stories about her favorite books, the shows she liked to watch, and the music she enjoyed. Marcus listened carefully, fascinated by her words and happy to see her smiling so much. As they played, Marcus noticed how lonely Emily had been before. He realized that what she needed most was not expensive toys or big parties but someone to be there, someone to share time with her, someone who would care without expecting anything in return. That thought made him feel proud. He had made a difference, even in a small way, and that felt important. Emily's father, Mr. Allen, watched from the doorway again. He had never seen his daughter so happy. Yesterday, she had smiled when Marcus gave her the gift, but today, her joy was deeper, richer. She was laughing freely, without hesitation or fear. Mr. Allen realized that money and parties could not give Emily what she truly needed: friendship, care, and attention. Marcus, a poor boy from the other side of the city, had given her something priceless. After a while, Emily grew tired from playing. She leaned back in her wheelchair, breathing softly but smiling. Marcus handed her the notebook he had brought. "I drew some pictures for you," he said. "You can color them with these crayons." Emily carefully took the notebook and began to color. Marcus watched her, amazed at how quickly her face lit up. She had chosen bright colors and bold strokes, her creativity shining through. Marcus felt proud that she was enjoying himself, that she was expressing herself. "You're really good at this," he said, pointing at her colorful drawing. Emily giggled. "No, you are. Look at this one," she said, showing him a picture of a sunny day with a big rainbow. "I drew it for you." Marcus smiled. "Thank you. That's amazing." He felt a warm happiness in his chest. He had never thought that spending time with someone could feel so fulfilling. The day continued with laughter, stories, and games. Marcus told Emily about his life, about the challenges he faced, the small jobs he did, and the dreams he had for the future. Emily listened carefully, asking questions and showing interest in his stories. She realized that Marcus's life was very different from hers, but she admired his courage, his kindness, and his determination to help her despite having so little himself. As the afternoon approached, Emily's father finally spoke. "Marcus, you are welcome to stay for lunch," he said. "Emily has clearly enjoyed your company." Marcus's eyes widened. He had not expected this. He nodded politely. "Thank you, sir," he said. During lunch, Marcus noticed how different life could be. Emily had delicious food, beautifully prepared, and served with care. Marcus, however, did not feel out of place. He was simply happy to be there, sharing a meal with a new friend. Emily chattered about her favorite dishes, and Marcus told her stories about the meals he had at home, sometimes simple, sometimes hurried, but always filled with love from his mother. After lunch, Emily showed Marcus around her room. She had books, toys, and games he had never seen before. She explained each one, showing him how to play or use them. Marcus listened, learning, but he did not feel jealous. He understood that his friendship and time with Emily were more important than any toy or material object. As the day wore on, Marcus noticed something change in Emily. She seemed more confident, more open, and happier than she had been for a long time. Her wheelchair no longer seemed like a limitation to her imagination. With Marcus's friendship, she felt capable of exploring new experiences and enjoying life, despite her challenges. At the end of the day, Marcus realized it was time to go. He had spent several hours with Emily, and he wanted her to remember this day, not just the gift, but the time they shared. "I have to go now," he said softly. Emily's face fell for a moment. "Do you have to?" she asked, her voice small. Marcus nodded. "Yes, but I will come again. I promise." Emily smiled, her eyes sparkling with hope. "I'll wait for you," she said. Before leaving, Marcus gave Emily a hug. It was a small gesture, but it meant the world to both of them. He felt her warmth, her gratitude, and her happiness. It was a feeling he would never forget. As he walked back through the grand hallway, Marcus saw Emily's father again. Mr. Allen nodded at him, a silent acknowledgement of the boy's kindness. Marcus returned the nod and stepped out into the warm afternoon sunlight. Walking home, Marcus felt a sense of fulfillment he had never known before. He had not given money, nor had he done something grand or showy. He had simply given his time, his care, and his friendship. And in return, he had received something priceless, the joy of making a difference in someone's life. That night, Marcus told his mother about the day. She listened with pride, tears in her eyes. "Marcus, you are a very special boy," she said softly. "You have a heart bigger than most people I know. Emily is lucky to have you as her friend." Marcus smiled, feeling warm inside. He knew he had done the right thing. He had stepped out of his comfort zone, crossed boundaries of wealth and class, and reached out with kindness. And in doing so, he had not only made Emily happy but had also discovered the power of his own compassion. And somewhere in her room, Emily held the notebook Marcus had given her, thinking about the boy who had shown her that even in a world that sometimes felt lonely, friendship, care, and kindness could change everything. The next few days were filled with small but meaningful moments. Marcus kept his promise and returned to Emily's house. Each time he came, he brought something different: a story, a small handmade toy, or simply his presence. He did not have much, but what he offered came from his heart. And Emily treasured every bit of it. Emily looked forward to Marcus's visits more than anything else. Even though she could not run or play outside like other children, his presence made her feel free. She laughed more, spoke more, and seemed to carry a lightness that her father had not seen in years. Marcus taught her how to create games with simple things around the house, turning ordinary items into adventures. He had a way of seeing magic in everyday life, and Emily loved it. Her father, Mr. Allen, watched quietly at first. He did not understand how a poor boy could make his daughter so happy. At first, he felt awkward, even suspicious. He was a man used to control and wealth, used to people following rules and etiquette. Marcus followed none of these, yet Emily adored him. Something about this puzzled Mr. Allen, and it also began to disturb him in ways he could not fully explain. One afternoon, Mr. Allen decided to speak with Marcus privately. He found the boy sitting in the library, drawing pictures for Emily. "Marcus," he began, his voice serious but calm, "I want to talk to you." Marcus looked up, a little nervous. He had never been in a room like this before: walls lined with books, expensive furniture, and an air of authority that made him feel small. But he stood up politely. "Yes, sir." Mr. Allen sat down across from him. "I want to understand why you come here. You have very little, yet you give so much to my daughter. Why?" Marcus took a deep breath. He had never been asked this question before in such a serious way. Most adults assumed he was seeking something in return, that his kindness was a way to get something. But he shook his head. I like Emily. She's my friend. She's kind, and she deserves to be happy. That's all. I don't want anything in return." Mr. Allen studied the boy's face. He saw sincerity in his eyes, a depth of honesty that was rare. He realized that Marcus's actions were not motivated by greed, pride, or ambition; they were pure. This realization made him pause and think. He had always believed that wealth and gifts could fix everything, that money could solve problems and bring happiness. Yet here was a boy with nothing, giving more than he had ever experienced. "Do you know," Mr. Allen said slowly, "that you have changed my daughter?" Marcus tilted his head. I hope so. I just wanted to make her happy." Mr. Allen nodded, thinking carefully. "She smiles now. She laughs more. She talks about life in ways she never did before. You've brought something to her that no one else could. And I think you've also made me realize something." Marcus listened quietly. He did not fully understand what Mr. Allen meant, but he sensed the importance in his words. "I have been distant," Mr. Allen continued. "I thought giving her a good home, providing for her needs, was enough. But I was wrong. She needed someone who could see her as she is, who could understand her heart, who could give her friendship and joy without expecting anything in return. And you've shown me that." Marcus felt a warm feeling in his chest. He had never thought his actions would teach an adult a lesson. All he wanted was to help Emily, to make her smile. And now, his presence was making a difference in ways he had never imagined. After that conversation, Mr. Allen began to change in small ways. He started to pay more attention to Emily, not just as his daughter but as a person with thoughts, feelings, and dreams. He began to join them in their games, at first awkwardly, but slowly learning how to engage with her in a meaningful way. Emily loved seeing her father try to laugh, to play, to participate. She felt more connected to him than ever before. Meanwhile, Marcus continued to spend time with Emily, teaching her about creativity, imagination, and hope. They built small adventures together: a treasure hunt with clues Marcus wrote, a pretend picnic with toys and drawings, and stories they created as a team. Emily's wheelchair did not stop them. Marcus showed her that adventure could happen anywhere, with the right mindset and a good friend by your side. One day, as they were coloring together, Emily looked at Marcus seriously. "Do you know," she said, "I've never had a friend like you before." Marcus smiled, feeling a little shy. "Neither have I," he admitted. "But I'm glad I do now." Emily nodded, her eyes thoughtful. "I don't know what I'd do without you. You make me feel like I can do anything, even if I can't walk like other kids." Marcus reached over and gently touched her hand. "You can do anything. And I'll be here to help whenever you need me." At that moment, something inside Emily shifted. She realized that her life, though different, was not limited. She had a friend, she had love, and now she had her father paying attention to her in ways he never had before. Life felt bigger, brighter, and more full of possibilities. The bond between Marcus and Emily grew stronger with each passing day. They shared secrets, dreams, and hopes. Marcus taught Emily to laugh at small mistakes, to see the beauty in ordinary moments, and to believe in herself. Emily, in turn, inspired Marcus with her courage, her spirit, and her unwavering positivity despite her physical challenges. Mr. Allen observed quietly, learning the lessons that Marcus had taught Emily. He began to understand that life was not about wealth or status but about kindness, connection, and love. Seeing Marcus's selflessness made him reflect on his own shortcomings, and slowly, he began to change. One evening, after a long day of playing and creating stories, Marcus packed up his things to leave. Emily hugged him tightly. "Promise me you'll come again tomorrow," she asked, her eyes wide with hope. "I promise," Marcus said, smiling. "I wouldn't miss it for anything." Mr. Allen stood in the doorway, watching the two friends. He felt a mixture of pride, gratitude, and humility. The boy had come into their lives unexpectedly, and yet he had brought lessons and joy that no one else could. He realized that Marcus had not only helped Emily but had helped him, too, helped him understand what it truly meant to care, to love, and to be present. As Marcus walked home that evening, he thought about how small actions could create big changes. He had not expected to teach anyone anything or to make such an impact, but he saw that kindness had a ripple effect. One act of genuine care could touch many lives in ways that were impossible to predict. That night, Emily lay in bed, hugging the notebook Marcus had given her. She thought about all the adventures they had shared, the games they had played, and the laughter that had filled her room. For the first time in a long time, she felt truly happy and truly understood. And somewhere in the house, her father reflected quietly on the lessons he had learned. He understood now that life's greatest gifts were not things that could be bought or earned through power. The greatest gifts were love, attention, and kindness, the very things Marcus had given freely, without expectation, without hesitation. From that day forward, Emily's life began to change in subtle but powerful ways. She became more confident, more joyful, and more eager to experience the world around her. She understood that her disability did not define her and that friendship, courage, and creativity could open doors that wealth and status never could. Marcus continued to visit, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. And as he helped Emily explore her world, he discovered the power of friendship, of empathy, and of the simple joy of giving. The small boy from a poor neighborhood had transformed a house filled with wealth into a home filled with warmth. He had shown that even in a world that sometimes seemed unfair or lonely, kindness and care could change lives, heal hearts, and bring hope where there was none. Time passed, and Emily's world grew brighter every day. The once silent house that had echoed with loneliness and quiet frustration was now filled with laughter, chatter, and hope. Marcus continued to visit faithfully, always bringing a new story, a small creation, or simply his presence. He had become more than a friend to Emily. He was a companion, a mentor, and a reminder that kindness could come from anywhere. Her father, Mr. Allen, watched these interactions closely. The boy's influence on his daughter was undeniable. He began to join their activities more often, learning how to communicate with Emily in ways he had never considered. At first, it was awkward. He stumbled through games, mispronounced words in their stories, and struggled to understand the creative world that Marcus introduced. But slowly, he learned. Slowly, he began to see life through Emily's eyes. One afternoon, the three of them sat in Emily's room, working on a big art project together. The walls were covered with drawings, paintings, and small handmade crafts. Emily was smiling from ear to ear, holding her paintbrush with care, while Marcus carefully mixed colors for her. Mr. Allen observed silently, feeling a warmth he had not felt in years. "Emily," he said softly, "you're amazing. Look at all the colors, all the ideas. I I never knew you could do this." Emily looked up at him with a small, proud smile. "Thanks, Dad. Marcus taught me that it's not about what I can't do. It's about what I can do." Marcus grinned, feeling happy that Emily understood his little lessons about creativity and imagination. He had always believed that everyone had something special inside them. Sometimes, they just needed a little encouragement to bring it out. Emily was the perfect example of that truth. Mr. Allen felt a lump in his throat. He realized that for years, he had tried to protect Emily with money and material things, but he had neglected the one thing she truly needed: attention, care, and emotional connection. Seeing her smile, seeing her confidence grow, he felt gratitude toward the boy who had opened his eyes. As the weeks went by, Mr. Allen made a decision. He wanted to do more than observe, he wanted to participate fully in his daughter's life. He began to spend more time with her, listening to her thoughts, asking about her dreams, and engaging in the activities she loved. Marcus continued to be a part of these moments, guiding both Emily and her father, helping them build a relationship that had been missing for too long. Then came the day that would mark a turning point for all of them. Emily's birthday had returned, but this time, it would be different. The previous year had been lonely and painful, but now, with Marcus by her side and her father fully involved, the house was ready to welcome happiness. Mr. Allen had invited friends and family, but more importantly, he had learned that the heart of the celebration was Emily herself and the joy she brought to others. The day began with a flurry of preparations. Balloons were hung, a cake was carefully iced, and small gifts were arranged neatly around the room. Emily, in her wheelchair, helped with the decorations, laughing and talking as she placed each balloon and ribbon. Marcus assisted her, offering guidance and encouragement, while Mr. Allen quietly watched, feeling pride and a sense of accomplishment. As the clock ticked closer to the time when guests were expected, Emily grew slightly nervous. "Do you think everyone will like my decorations?" she asked Marcus, her voice soft. Marcus smiled warmly. "They'll love them, Emily. But even if they don't, remember that what matters most is how happy you are. That's the only thing that truly counts." Emily nodded, taking comfort in his words. She realized that happiness was not dependent on the number of guests or the quality of gifts. True joy came from connection, from love, and from being appreciated for who she was. Soon, guests began to arrive, filling the house with cheerful noise and excitement. Family members, neighbors, and friends greeted Emily warmly, complimenting her decorations and gifts. But what made her happiest was the sight of Marcus standing quietly by her side, smiling proudly. He had been the one constant in her life, the one person who had never abandoned her. The party went on with laughter, games, and stories. Emily felt a sense of belonging she had never experienced before. For the first time, she understood that life could be full of love, support, and friendship, even in the face of challenges. Her father, too, realized that happiness was not something that could be bought or planned. It was something that was nurtured through care, attention, and presence. Later in the evening, after the guests had left, Emily and Marcus sat together quietly. The room was now dim, the balloons swaying gently in the soft light. Emily turned to Marcus, her eyes shining. "I'm so glad you came into my life," she said softly. "You made last year's birthday unforgettable, and this year even better. You taught me so much." Marcus felt a warm glow of pride and happiness. "Emily, you taught me too. You taught me that courage isn't about what you can do physically, it's about what's in your heart. You taught me to see the world differently." Emily smiled, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. She realized that her life had changed in ways she could never have imagined. The boy who had knocked on her door when no one else came had become a beacon of hope and love. He had shown her that kindness and friendship could overcome loneliness, despair, and fear. Mr. Allen watched them from a distance, feeling his heart swell with emotion. He approached them, kneeling beside Emily's wheelchair. "Emily," he said softly, "I want to thank Marcus for everything he has done for you, for us. He has shown us what really matters in life." Emily reached out and held her father's hand. "I know, Dad. And I'm happy, really happy." Marcus nodded, feeling a sense of fulfillment he had never experienced before. He had entered their lives as a stranger, a poor boy with little to offer materially, yet he had brought the greatest gift of all: love, friendship, and hope. In the weeks and months that followed, Emily continued to thrive. She became more confident, more independent in her own ways, and more joyful. Her relationship with her father strengthened, and he learned to be present, to listen, and to cherish the moments they shared. Marcus remained by their side, always willing to lend a hand, a story, or a kind word. The story of the poor boy and the paralyzed girl spread quietly through the community. People were inspired by the lesson it carried, that love, kindness, and genuine care could create change where wealth and status could not. Marcus became known not for his poverty, but for his heart, his courage, and his unwavering commitment to helping others. Emily grew up with a strong sense of self-worth, understanding that her disability did not define her. She learned to embrace life fully, to dream boldly, and to cherish the people who truly mattered. And at the center of it all was Marcus, the boy who had knocked on her door when no one else came, showing that even the smallest gestures of kindness could have the most profound impact. Years later, when Emily looked back on her life, she remembered the lonely birthday, the knock on the door, and the boy who had changed everything. She realized that happiness was not about wealth, presents, or grand gestures. It was about love, presence, and the people who chose to stand by you, even when the world turned away. Marcus, too, reflected on his journey. He understood that his life had been transformed as much as Emily's. He had learned that giving without expecting anything in return could create joy, strengthen bonds, and change lives. He had discovered that true wealth was not in money or possessions, but in the ability to touch hearts and inspire hope. And Mr. Allen, once distant and distracted by his wealth, learned the greatest lesson of all, that family, love, and connection were the most valuable treasures in life. He became a father who listened, cared, and cherished his daughter, understanding that presence and attention were worth more than anything money could buy. In the end, the house that had once been quiet and lonely became a place of laughter, love, and hope. Emily thrived, her father grew into his role as a loving parent, and Marcus remained the friend who had taught them all the true meaning of generosity and kindness. The story of that birthday, of a poor boy who knocked on a door when no one else came, lived on as a testament to the power of compassion. It reminded everyone who heard it that sometimes, the simplest acts of love could create the most extraordinary change, and that the heart was the richest gift of all. And in that home, Emily smiled every day, not because she had everything in the world, but because she had exactly what mattered: friendship, love, and the knowledge that someone believed in her when it mattered most.